Hi, welcome to the second part of our Take a Break and Create and Craft along for quilling. So in the first part we showed you all of the basic techniques that you're going to need for this project. You know, the coils, the strip work, you should have those under your belt now. So now we're looking at actually constructing the project and sticking all the bits on. So if you've got the kit, then you'll have these pre-printed cards. If not, there is a link so you can download the design and you can have a look. If I just give it a little wiggle there, you should be able to see there's a printed design on there that you can just follow. It's in a really nice faint light grey, so it shouldn't show through if you don't exactly hit the lines when you've finished your design. So first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to put some of these leaves on. Now in the other video I did mention about leaving these until they're completely dry before you start adding kind of extra bits to them. It is always worth doing that, especially with these single pieces that kind of stand upright, because if you start pushing too many bits and pieces back and forth on them, they will start to get wobbly and it will get frustrating. So take your time. So what I've got here is I've got some of the leaves that I've made to go either side of that central stalk. And the way that I've made these is I've taken two of those round circles that we've made. So I've got a 25mm one in the light green, and then I've got a 15mm one with half of a mid-green strip, and that's it's a 20mm one and a 25mm one. This is a full strip, this is a half strip. I've then squeezed them to create those almost like eye shapes. So to do that, what I tend to do is work with that bit that I've stuck at the bottom, because by working with it, it's going to help to create that point at the bottom and you're not going to see it as much, because there is another step to this which I'll show you in a second. So I'm going to squeeze the one at the bottom, and then depending on how I want it, I could leave it quite kind of rounded at the top, or if I want to make it like these ones, then I'll do the same up there and I'll just pinch the top as well. And I could squeeze that in further, I could make it a bit shallower if I want to. It's depending on what I need to do to fill in that leaf shape that's actually on the template. So that one's going to go on the top, and then I need to make another one to go on the bottom, and to do that I'm going to do exactly the same. Squeeze one side and then squeeze the other side, and you can make it so it's kind of rounder on the top, flatter on one side. You can make it whichever way suits you. And then we're going to join these two together to create that leaf shape. Now at the minute, obviously they're kind of pushing against each other, but as you can see with this one, once you've glued them together, they will kind of close that gap and they will create that shape. And at this point, you still have the ability to kind of, you know, squidge it and move it about and create the nice leaf shape that's going to match your printed design that's on your card. Now to finish these off, like the ones that I've got here, these have got a strip of that dark green layered all the way around them. And to do that, once you've got the two pieces stuck together, you're going to take a strip of the dark green. Now this takes quite a bit of glue, so don't be afraid of putting quite a bit on, and you want to spread it out so it's right to the edges of your paper as well. So we'll do both sides, and a bit more there. And make sure you get plenty at the point where they join and plenty at the point where you're going to go up and over with that extra strip. And a bit down here, and spread it right out. Again, if you can wait that 10 to 15 seconds till that glue starts to go clear and tacky, then you'll get a much better stick, and it'll be a much quicker stick as well, so you won't have to wait as long on the other end when you're holding it down. So I'm going to start at the bottom edge. Just going to go a millimetre or two past that bottom edge, because when I bring it up and over, I do want to join them back together. And then I'm going to come up and over the top, down the other side, and then join them back together. Now you can leave little gaps there and there if you want to, and just use that up and over to create the leaf shape, or you can press them right in and make a tighter one if you want. It's entirely up to you. I quite like the gaps in there because I think it just creates a better overall shape to the leaf. Once that is kind of starting to grab, then I'm actually going to leave that alone, and I'm going to set it to one side, and I'm not going to cut that off yet. I prefer to let these completely dry in that shape before I cut them off, because if anything does move around when you're trying to cut it off, you might be a little bit short, a little bit too long. A little bit too long, you can fix that. You can just chop the extra off. A little bit too short, you're going to end up starting again. And this is a good glue. Once it grabs, it's really tough to get it off, and to be honest, you're not going to get it off, so it's easier to make a whole new leaf. But it is all there, and it's ready to go. We're just going to leave that to dry for just a second. Now, once you want to put these actually onto your backing piece, then exactly the same process. So I would add, I would say it's better to add the glue to the card than to the back of the piece, because if you've got that leaf and you're kind of trying to dab glue on it and it runs through, you're going to end up with it running through onto the front of your design. So I would just offer that up. You don't need glue everywhere, you just need glue enough to hold it. So I can see, for example, that maybe can go up a little bit there. And as long as I can get a nice spread of glue in the middle there. And again, this dries clear, so you don't need to worry too much that you, if you go over the edges, because it will dry clear and you will not see it. So I've got a good spread over there, and then I'm just going to offer up my leaf. And because it is a kind of tacky glue, this one, you do have probably 3 or 4 minutes where you can just, you know, tweak it, maybe pinch it, change the shape a little bit. We need to move that up a touch to cover the design that's on the background. And a bit more, and maybe just a bit thinner. There you go. And then once you are happy with it, you can stick it down and just put a little bit of pressure on it for, again, 10-15 seconds, just enough to get it to get a really good grab, and then away you go. And as we said earlier, when you've got lots of pieces of these fine lines, it is definitely worth just doing them, having a little gap, and then coming back. So the petals for the actual flower itself is done exactly the same way. I've just taken the single pieces and then wrapped them with a white on the outside, the same way as I did with the leaves. And then I've got 3 petals. There's the other one that just still needs wrapping. So if I pinch that at the bottom, there you go. That needs a bit more of a pinch, but you can see exactly the same way. Now these have got really fine bits in between them. And to tackle these, what I would do is get my larger petals put down first, then add in those strips that are going to go in between. So I believe they are in the bright pink. And if you do need extra pieces, there's loads, and there's way more than you're ever going to need within the quilting strips here. And to get them off, if you just kind of pull them down, and then they should be like this one is at the top here, where they're all still joined together. Rather than ripping the whole thing apart, if you just get the one you want and then just gently pull down with a little wiggle, they'll detach, and you can keep everything together, because once you kind of separate the glue on them, they can get a little bit tricky. So I would stick these down first. Once they're fully stuck in place, then I would come in with the bits that go within the middle. And you can shape these a little bit first. So for example, this one's got a little bit more of a pointy top. So I can measure that out. A fingernail there where I need to just give it a little bend. Now I don't necessarily need to put a full crease in there, because I don't necessarily want that really sharp kind of almost leaf petal design to it. I just want to round it out a little bit. And if you're not managing it terribly well just with your fingers, then you can slide the tool on and just kind of wiggle it round, bending as you go, and that will give you like a nice rounded top to your corner, rather than having a really sharp bend. And then if I offer this back up to here, you can see much better fit for that bit at the top there now. So my biggest tip for this is just take your time. Do one bit at a time, and especially with these bits where they're standalone strips and you're building that design up, do one bit at a time and be patient, let it dry. Ideally let it dry completely before you put the next bit on. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put up a picture of the finished item here at the end of the video, so you can see how it looks when it's finished.